In this particular slide, I'm going to argue, who's lawyers, who are practitioners of the black arts? I want to focus on you guys. All right, I got daughters who practice. When we're all children, somewhere around the age 4 to 5 years of age, somebody takes time to, with us, to take us out to a creek or to a pond or to a river and introduce us to water. I would argue that every one of us have been imprinted on water throughout our life, and it started at an early age. Water is the most important thing to Oklahoma next to our people. Absolutely. And with me, some of you went on and became lawyers, some of you did other things, some did professional things. I stuck on water. Water has been my career. And Richard Sevenoaks stood here 2 months ago and reminded us of the great importance of the Ogallala and making sure that we use it wisely and that we strike a balance with the neighboring states to make sure that we don't overutilize it. And he said that it was important that we safeguard it for future generations, not just this one. Then at last month's meeting, Marilyn Beaver, when that girl would speak, pardon me, that lady would speak, you better darn well listen. And she did one of the best jobs of framing up the importance of water for our state and its economic value by far. Wonderful job that she did. And so now it's my turn. I'm going to yammer around a little bit for a tad. And you've already said I've been around 33 years, but while some perceive me as being overboard on trying to protect water and protect the environment, I've always strived to try to find a balance between having a robust economy and protection of the resources that I was entrusted to try to preserve and protect these last 33 years. And I remember coming to the podium at the old building. It's funny how life comes full circle. That I would come in the 80s and say, how about a phosphorus standard for scenic rivers that is measurable, a numeric standard instead of a narrative standard? And people would basically laugh me out of the room. You want what? Well, we did it. And the wastewater plants in these municipalities and industries said it wasn't possible, that they couldn't pay for the technology. And they have. Every time there's been an issue that impacts quality of life in Oklahoma, or for that matter the United States and many areas of the world, we always step up and find a solution that's fair to all and the right thing to do. There will always be work to be done. Our population is growing, and with it, the demand for clean water. The Illinois River, which you mentioned, is where I've spent my career working in that basin, but I've gone across state lines into Arkansas and had to work with Arkansas because they own the Illinois River as much as Oklahoma does. And many of our water resources in Oklahoma belong to other states as well as Oklahoma. So we got to be mindful of that. 3 things I observed that concern me more than ever before. The first, people have a tendency to take clean water for granted. Second, most people know very little about the importance of our state's rivers and our groundwater. Oklahoma claims more than 78,600 miles of streams, and I personally can attest I have not been to all of them, but I'd like to be. And lastly, is fact that folks don't understand the connection of our rivers to groundwater, nor do they understand how they even originate groundwater. Accepting our wonderful people, there is no resource more important to our state than these surface and groundwater resources and the water that runs through them. The value of these rivers and our groundwater is priceless. You cannot set a price on it. Majority of Oklahomans recognize the necessity of good, clean, reliable sources of water in order to grow food that we eat, nourish our bodies, and provide the varying uses that support our schools, businesses, industries, and overall economy. Yet many have never taken pause to conscientiously consider the value of water. The The vast majority of us take for granted each time we turn on the faucet to a sink, to shower, or whatever other water conveyance that we might use, that water will run endlessly from that conveyance. Simply, we don't really worry about the availability of water, although on a daily basis, every one of us depend upon water for our very existence. We have yet to admit to ourselves this simple fact. Although water may be a renewable resource, clean water suitable to sustain us is already becoming scarce. When I ponder the value of water, I see much more than the food we produce, the physical and spiritual nourishment that the water provides. In a healthy economy, it goes beyond sustaining our natural environment, fisheries, wildlife, and providing recreational activities. Rivers are, and groundwater are, cultural, religious, and sustaining gifts of God, from God. And to me, they are the lifeblood of the human soul. Richard and Marilyn provided several tidbits of wisdom in conclusion of their terms, and thus I'll do the same. We have got to get about the business of educating folks in the state of Oklahoma about the value of water. Number one, time is at hand that requires that we must develop whole river basin strategies and methodologies, and that means going across state lines and treating rivers as a whole system, taking into consideration everything that goes on in that basin. A TMDL is not too many darn lawyers. It is an economic development tool. Setting water quality standards allows for communities and industries to know what the level is going to be and put them on a level playing field where they don't spend money over and over and over. They're able to plan. And so a lot of these tools that we're deploying are necessary. Tackling the elusive question of conjunctive use. I will argue till I go to my grave that groundwater and surface water are connected and vice versa. I will never come off that point. They are connected, and we are starting to realize that. We need to transition from annualized water permitting to seasonally adjusted water permitting so that in the heat of the summer, people know what kind of water supply they're really going to have. And this board must realize that once we give water permits to someone like a master water conservancy district, that we got to be mindful of that from then forward to make sure that we don't over allocate upstream so that those people that are relying on that water get that water. We need to help our rivers. We need to reestablish the vegetative strips along it, and to back away the farming and some of the development activities and give the river its space. It isn't if the river's going to flood, it's when. And rivers need their space. They need the space so that they can capture runoff and trap it, recharge groundwater slowly, and release it back slowly to the environment. We need to start working on stream bank stabilization methods in this state, all over the state. And something that's really paramount for you as board members, you can't just come to these meetings. You're going to have to invest time away from your businesses and your families, and you need to get out around this state and visit all the different areas of this state and interact with the users and stakeholders of the water around this state. There are many people that need our help. And right now, most of the effort is focused on the counties around Oklahoma City and Tulsa. And rural Oklahoma is just as important as any part of the state. Get out, interact with them, experience, learn from them, and be knowledgeable of all aspects of our state's water resources. Because Texas is going to come again, somebody like Texas is going to come again, somebody's going to threaten our water supplies. You are the front line, you are the front line defense, you're the A team, and you're the ones that do the work. To close, preservation of our water resources is a cause that has no end point. I'll always owe a huge debt of gratitude to the people of this state for allowing me to work for them and to fumble around in my early years, and for this board to allow me to serve on this board. And My thanks go out to Miles Tolbert, former Secretary of the Environment, who had confidence in both J.D. Strong to put him in as Director of the Water Resources Board and to allow me to be appointed by Governor Henry to the Water Board. I always owe them a huge debt of gratitude. The Water Resources Board is a premier state agency, and I emphasize premier. What a privilege and honor it's been this last 12 years to work with you, and to have worked in tandem with folks like Harry Curry, who came before you, and Lonnie Farmer, Jack Neely, Kenny Knowles, Erwin Mitchell, and Mark Nichols, Bill Seacrest, Joe Tarrant, Rudy Herman, and then Richard and Marilyn, and you. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that what a arsenal of talent that you have among your staff. Wonderful people. I can't begin to say enough words to compliment them. They are really good. And the citizens of the state of Oklahoma, I wouldn't want to work for another state, given what I've had the pleasure to do. Oklahoma is my home, and when the St. River Commission was consolidated, I had an opportunity to leave the state and go somewhere else. Somebody wanted to hire me, and I said, no, I'm not leaving my state. Y'all